Welcome back to Serger Tip Clips. In the previous tip clip, I showed you a great technique for using fusible thread when you're binding a quilt, a table topper, table runner, wall hanging, even garments. And I hinted at the fact that I might add one more element to this technique just to kind of dress up that binding edge on the right side of your project. And I have it done, and let me show you a real quick close-up of that. It's just such a pretty technique using 8-weight thread in the chain looper, a chain stitch, and having the stitch long enough to really give it a beaded look on the edge of the binding. So let's sit down and see how to do that. This is the same sample that I showed you the fusible binding technique on, and I said I might have a really fun way to dress up the edge of the binding. So what I did off camera was I stitched in the ditch, and you can just see that white thread a little bit, and I did it with a very long stitch. I had my stitch length up to 6 millimeters, and because it really is only being used as a guideline. Here's the back side of it. And this is why I basted this in place. The fusible thread held it securely, but because I'm going to use a chain stitch with 8-weight decorative thread in the chain looper, I have to stitch with the wrong side face up in order for that 8-weight thread to show on the right side of this sample. And so this stitching in the ditch is strictly a guideline for my decorative stitching. So I just wanted to show you that first. So let's take a look. Here's the back, and you can see a little bit of it in the front as well. So let's go over to the machine and see, it's almost like adding a beaded edge to it without beads, because I've got a fairly long stitch for this chain stitch technique. I've snapped on the C28 foot, and having these indicator ridges marked with the lines is such a great idea because it's going to make this technique very accurate. I am just going to follow my basted stitching line with this mark, and we should be right on the money when I turn this over. So let's check it out. Putting my presser foot down, and just to reiterate, I am set up for a chain stitch. Serger cone thread is in my center needle, and I have 8-weight cotton thread in my chain looper. My stitch length is on 4.0 because it is a quilt sandwich and it is a thick thread. So let's check it out and see how this looks. I'm going to tap my needle down because I like to do that when I'm chain stitching and I have to pivot. Okay, so I am right here. I'm going to raise the presser foot. I landed right on that basting line, which is a miracle. It's great. And let's stitch this long edge. Grab my locking fork, bring my needle all the way up, pull it forward, give my needle thread a snip, pull this out, and let's take a look at this on the table. Let's take a look at this up close. Now you can see the needle thread just for a little bit of contrast and to add a little more interest to it. But how beautiful is that chain stitch next to the binding? I just think it adds so much pop, and it does look like little beads because the stitch length is longer, and it's an 8-weight thread. And that C28 foot made this perfectly even right next to the binding, which is where I wanted it. The markings on that foot are fantastic for this. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below and I'll get back to you quickly with an answer. I hope you subscribed. And on the second Tuesday of each month at noon Eastern Time, I do a live presentation called Serger Savvy. If you can't catch it live, it's always automatically recorded to the YouTube channel. But thanks for joining me today. Happy sewing and serging.